Right now, beneath our feet, an invisible but brutal tragedy is unfolding. A firefly larva is emitting a continuous, intensely bright glow. But this isn't a mating call, and it's not an attempt to scare off a predator. It's a sign of imminent death. After absorbing chemicals from a standard farm field, the insect's nervous system suffers a catastrophic failure. The mechanism that inhibits nerve impulses breaks down. The larva loses control of its own body and starts glowing brightly and continuously, rapidly burning through all its resources. The poison is literally frying its nervous system from the inside out, and soon, it dies. It sounds horrifying, but this is the very real threat currently facing one of the oldest species on the planet. Recently, scientists found a perfectly preserved firefly inside a piece of Burmese amber. This specimen is 99 million years old. Its light-producing organs are exactly the same as those of modern species. This means their biological systems survived global climate shifts, continental drift, and the extinction of the dinosaurs. But what worked flawlessly for 100 million years is now collapsing because of us, in just the last century. You'll often read online that fireflies are dying out completely, but science says otherwise. The most common species are actually out of the woods for now. Globally, they are surviving, even if their numbers are slowly dropping near cities. The real problem is the hidden extinction of rare species, which is happening faster than scientists can even track. In this video, we'll break down whether a street lamp is really worse than poison, how the Chinese made millions on fireflies, and how one woman did more to save them than the entire academic science community. But let's take it step by step. Let's get the facts straight. Fireflies aren't disappearing tomorrow. Common species that easily adapt to different environments, like the common eastern firefly in North America, have stable populations. The real crisis is hitting the highly specialized species. About 20% of all studied fireflies worldwide are facing extinction. In Europe, it's even worse. Half of their species could disappear. The main issue is that for many of them, we simply don't have the data. Global conservation studies and mass surveys of fireflies only really started about 15 years ago. Why are they so vulnerable? The main reason lies in their life cycle. A firefly spends very little time as a flying adult. For most of its life, from a few months to 2 years, it lives underground as a larva, and it looks nowhere near as friendly as the adult bug. What's more, they are brutal, active predators. How do they hunt? The larva follows the slime trail of a snail. Catching up to a victim many times its size, the larva sinks its mandibles in and injects a paralyzing neurotoxin mixed with digestive enzymes. The snail literally dissolves alive, and the larva simply drinks up this nutritious cocktail. Who do you think is their main enemy? No, it's not birds or other animals. It's humans, specifically neonicotinoids. These are popular agricultural pesticides used to treat fields against aphids and root pests. Once inside the larva's body, the poison blocks the enzyme that's supposed to stop nerve signals. That short circuit in the nervous system occurs. As we mentioned at the start of the video, the larva begins to glow continuously and dies from paralysis and exhaustion. But even if the dose is small, the larva simply forgets how to eat and how to build a cocoon to transform into an adult. And just like that, its life is cut short. Now, imagine this. You are a female European glowworm. By nature, you don't have wings. You sit in the grass and emit a faint light, waiting for a male to fly by. This is the absolute only way you can attract attention. Unfortunately, you live near a city boundary, surrounded by streetlights and LEDs. So, no matter how hard you try to send your signal, nobody notices you. A male just a few feet away is blinded by the headlights of a passing car or a street lamp. Mating never happens. Wingless females physically cannot crawl away to another, darker forest. The result? You die alone, and the local population dies out with you. So that's the second problem, light pollution. The third problem is the physical destruction of their habitat. For example, one species lives exclusively in the wetlands of Delaware. Commercial real estate development started there, leaving only about 15 isolated groups of fireflies. The situation became so critical that in the fall of 2024, this firefly was officially proposed for listing under the Endangered Species Act. This is the first time in history that a firefly has received the highest level of government protection. In Asia, forests are being cut down for palm oil plantations. The water is becoming polluted with fertilizers, and the insects are losing their breeding grounds. In China, they even set up commercial parks where people could come and get nostalgic about their childhood by watching thousands of fireflies. That's great, you might say. But behind this romance lay a disaster. The park organizers were buying the insects literally by the millions through giant internet platforms like Taobao. The businessmen swore that all the bugs were carefully raised on special farms. However, the leading Chinese firefly expert, Professor Fu Xinhua, proved that an army of poachers was simply wiping out forests in remote provinces, leaving behind dead zones. Professor Fu launched such a fierce campaign against this market and shut down so many commercial exhibitions that he began receiving real death threats from dealers who were losing massive amounts of money. Ultimately, the online trade was completely banned. So, is it really all that hopeless? Let me tell you a story that gives me goosebumps. For years, the academic science community was absolutely certain. Fireflies practically do not exist in the arid American West. The archives had maybe 10 confirmed locations for that entire massive region. Why did scientists make this conclusion? Think about it. These insects are active for just a couple of weeks a year, wake up strictly at night, and only come out under perfect weather conditions. A handful of professional scientists had zero chance of combing through gigantic territories and randomly ending up in the right ravine at exactly 10 o'clock at night. So, science took the easy way out. If we can't find them, it means they just don't live in this climate. That is, until entomologist Christy Bills from the Natural History Museum of Utah took the case.
The first year I thought I'll just go to the places by myself and stare off into the dark and I'm sure I'll find them. And it didn't work for an entire year.
Realizing that traditional methods weren't working, she and her colleagues came up with a brilliant plan.
With the help of another researcher at a sister institution, we concocted a project. How about we send out postcards around the state and ask people to tell us where they know fireflies are, and maybe we'll find more.
Bills launched a massive project called the Western Firefly Project, banking on what we call citizen science. She recruited thousands of everyday state residents. The mechanics were super simple. If you see a firefly, simply go to the website, enter your contact time and coordinates. Once she got a ping, Christy would personally drive out to these locations under the cover of night to verify the data and collect real biological specimens. The result of this experiment was historic. This army of volunteer spotters expanded the map of confirmed habitats from 10 to over 135 unique locations. With just one project, Christy Bills proved a fundamental truth. A regular crowd of enthusiasts can solve a scientific problem that seemed physically impossible to academics for a century. And the case of Christy Bills is no exception. Today, citizen science projects provide an unprecedented scale of data collection. In North America, there is a massive project called Firefly Watch, where you are simply asked to step out into your yard for 10 minutes and count the flashes in the dark. One of its founders is the legendary biologist Sarah Lewis. In England, amateur astronomer Robin Scagle launched the UK Glowworm Survey. Volunteers roam the wastelands at night in search of wingless females. Academics thought there were fewer than 100 such locations left in the country, but ordinary people found hundreds of new ones. And finally, the Firefly Atlas from leading US ecologists. Here, volunteers literally hunt for the rarest species, photograph them in macro, and measure the exact rhythms of their flashes. They are the ones who compiled the first red list of North American fireflies and succeeded in getting the extremely rare Delaware species protected at the federal level. And now, I want to share a very recent study that really gave me hope. You're probably thinking, is it really that hard to just breed fireflies in a lab? Here, it's important to clarify that there are terrestrial species and aquatic species. In Asia, for example in Japan, aquatic fireflies have been bred for a long time. All scientists have to do is set up a tank, get the filtration and oxygen going, toss in some river snails for food, and the system works. But in America, 90% of them are terrestrial, and you have no idea how hard it is to raise them in a lab. The main problem lies in the larvae. These are extremely demanding creatures that expect absolutely perfect conditions underground. The slightest deviation in their environment and the colony dies. But in 2025, a breakthrough happened. A team of scientists from the Butterfly Pavilion Laboratory in Colorado spent 8 years, and for the first time in history, they managed to guide the insect from a tiny egg to a fully grown adult inside a completely closed tank. They created a system of total control over every millimeter of space, and the system yielded the result people had been waiting decades for. A female, born and raised in the incubator, successfully mated and produced completely healthy offspring. The life cycle was closed outside the wild. Science has a ready-to-use technology in its hands. For the first time, there is a real possibility to scale this process, to mass breed endangered firefly species, release them into the wild, and reignite fading forests. And I could go on like this for a long time. We started this video with the fact that humans have become the main enemy of fireflies. But we arrived at the conclusion that people like Christy Bills and thousands of everyday volunteers are their true chance for salvation. I'm not going to preach morals and tell you how to live your life. If you have even a drop of empathy for nature and a shred of common sense, you already get it. Destroying an ecosystem that survived for 100 million years is incredibly easy. But preserving it, that is the real proof that we are, in fact, an intelligent species. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Drop a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next fascinating videos.